Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for our Janome Club. My name is Kathy and I'm one of the educators at Janome Australia. Today we'll be going through a couple of the functions on your machines and we'll also be showing you some accessories. So today we have for you the flower stitcher and the circle attachment. These are both used with your decorative stitches, and you can do your decorative stitches to create some beautiful circle shapes on your work. So today I'm sewing on two different machines. I've got the DM7200, which is a 7mm machine low shank, and that one is for the flower stitcher. And I've got the Memorycraft 9450 QCP, and that one I'm using the circle attachment on. If you'd like any further information on today's session, to order parts or to get the projects that are available for some of these accessories, you can contact your dealer or you can go to janome.com.au. So let's get started on this. So we're going to go over to our DM7200. And first of all, I'll show you a bit of a close-up of the flower stitcher. Get it in here. Here we go. So the flower stitcher is this sort of exciting looking contraption. And when you attach it, it's got a regular shank. Get it in the camera right. This here is your shank for like your regular shank for a foot, and that goes onto the foot bar of your machine. And this little lever here, if I can get it, this little lever that goes up and down, needs to go over your needle bar. It then has a dial on the top, and it's got a couple of markings. If I can get it so it's in, a couple of markings here. You can see a plus and a minus. So I can loosen off my little, get it loose on this one. Nope. If I loosen that off, that then allows me to change this mark from the positive over to the negative, and that will change the size of the circle that it sews. So I've got one attached here already to my machine. And the way this circle attachment works, and the full instructions for using it do come with the foot. So when you purchase the flower stitcher, you do get the instructions that explains to you to increase your foot pressure and to lower your thread tension. We are going to set this up so that it is, just going to get my thread here. So I'm going to use the needle on my machine, which is the needle up, down. It's the two little arrows. I'm going to utilize that to bring up my bottom thread. So I'm going to put my foot lever down so my foot is in the right position to sew. I'm going to go needle down and up, and that allows me to bring up my bobbin thread. At the moment, I'm just on a regular straight stitch. So we're then also on this machine going to use our start-stop button. This is really good for those that have a bit of issue coordinating their foot pedal to their sewing. Really good for children, especially younger children who can't quite get that coordination between their hands and their feet yet. Or any other time like this where it's just stitching around and you don't necessarily want to sit there with your foot on the foot pedal the whole time. I've turned my machine speed down to sort of between slow and medium, and we're going to hit the start button. The machine is then going to sew. I'll turn my speed up a little tiny bit. And you will see that the machine is sewing around in it. It's being held in by this foot. I'm just holding my fabric here so that it doesn't get caught in the machine. And it's just stitching around. As the needle goes up and down, it is getting this little lever here, clicking on the little ratchets. And it is moving my work around in a circle. As I get back to the start of my stitches, I'm going to press my stop button. Now, because I'm in a utility stitch, I am then going to want to do a lock off. So with a utility stitch, I need to use my lock button. It looks like a little bullseye on the machine. I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to keep sewing. And the machine will do a couple of stitches and then stop. Now I know that it is locked off the stitches and the stitches are secure, so I can now hit my scissor button and that will cut off my threads. So when I pull this out, and if I trim off my original thread tails, whoops, where is it? There is just a little straight stitch there. With this particular attachment, what one of the instructions say for you to do is to lower your feed dogs, because it actually has got like a little foam section on the bottom. So we can sort of see here this black rubber sort of foamy ring that presses down onto your work and holds it together. See that little foam ring there? So it's not actually working on the feed dogs of your machine. It's working on this little ratchet system that as it goes up and down, you can sort of see there.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, you can see it moving up and down, and then that will jump in the little ratchet to the next one along. So that moves your work around. So let's get into some decorative stitches as well.
The feed dogs are
feed dogs are down. Feed dogs are down. My thread tension is lower and my foot pressure is higher. The reason you want to increase your foot pressure if you've got that on your machine is that that will then clamp your work and the foot together and hold it in place to stitch around the circle. So we're going to stitch a decorative stitch now. Let's just choose a normal, actually we're going to start with just normal zigzag. So on this particular machine, I've got stitch 7. So this is just a normal zigzag. To position this where I want. My foot is down. I'm going to bring up my bobbin thread and hold on to that, and we'll start again. So because I'm using my start stop button, my speed is controlled by my slider on my machine. So if I wanted to go a bit faster, it's just a matter of putting that up, or if I want to go really slow, it's a matter of putting that down. I like sewing this one. Don't go full speed on this particular attachment because you do want it to make a nice circle going around. So this is on about a medium. So you can see I'm just helping the fabric, I'm just holding the fabric lightly, like under here. I'm not actually pushing or pulling the fabric at all. You can almost sew hands-free with this. When I get back to the beginning, again, because the zigzag is a utility stitch, I'm going to hit my lock off button. That will do my few little locking stitches. And then I cut with my scissors. I'm using a variegated thread here.
Should be back, Kathy.
Hello, welcome back again, everybody. Okay. So I'm going to choose a decorative stitch to use with our flower stitcher. Depending on your machine, you may have different decorative stitches. I'm going to choose one that's like a diamond sort of pattern, and you will see what amazing shape it creates for me. So we're going to start here. So because the foot is moving your machine around in a circle rather than just straight forwards, it almost distorts the stitch from the machine. So it creates this really unique, unusual pattern from the stitches. So what you want to do is you want to just choose a random stitch on your machine and see what it looks like on the flower stitcher, because think like the original stitch. Coming round, back round to the start of this one. Now, because I'm on a decorative stitch, it works slightly different. For me to do a lock off at this point, because I'm right back at my beginning, I now actually use the reverse button for the decorative stitches. So I press that, turn my machine on, it will do a couple of little stitches to lock off. Then I can cut. So this was a diamond. So it originally, oops, where's my camera? Here we go. So that is a diamond stitch. I don't know if I can just very quickly.
Can you show the other stitch? Because we didn't get to see it when we dropped.
Not a worry, I can do that. Apparently we missed the previous stitch. But what I might do is I might just get Peter to change the camera just so we can have a quick look up here at the stitches. So I can show, I don't know if you can zoom in here on this stitch here, number 47, just where my thumb is. So that stitch there, number 47, you can see the diamonds. That's what I've stitched out there. So you can see that because it's wanting to stitch this now in a circle, it does look completely different. So it is really good just to try random stitches and see what they look like on with the flower stitcher. So the one I think we missed was the circle, the regular zigzag, I believe. So if I go to my regular zigzag, which on this machine is stitch 7, it might be slightly different on your machine. So we're going to bring our needle up. Put our needle up and down to get my thread. Hold on to my threads and we'll start. This is just doing the standard zigzag. This one probably is the one that looks the most like its stitch. When it is finished. I'm just rolling this fabric under here so that it doesn't get bunched up. Because we're not using the feed dogs of the machine, if your fabric does hit the back of your machine here, it can distort the stitch a little bit. So I just sort of help it through there just to allow the foot to form that perfect circle for us. We are going to stop back at our beginning. And because, again, this is a utility stitch to lock off, I use my lock button. It'll do a couple of stitches and then stop and we'll cut off. You don't have to pull your threads up with this one at the beginning, but it does recommend it with the instructions. So here, if we can get a shot of that, there's our regular little zigzag. So you can sort of see here, this does still look like a zigzag. One I'll show you is that I did the letter K. So I'm going to go to mode A here, and the letter K on my machine is number 20. So this is a letter capital K. K for Kathy. And this one does quite a interesting design. With this one too, I'm actually going to go around twice. Oh, we only did one letter K. There we go. I'm going to start again for our next letter K. So when I do 3 Ks of this, it goes around, depending on your machine, you may or may not have alphabet or the monogramming. With this particular stitch, 3 stitches doesn't quite get me around in a full circle. So I actually do 6 Ks, which I'm going around my circle twice. And it creates another nice. So sometimes you can go twice around. Depending on the stitch, you'll get very different effects. After this one, I'll adjust the width, the size of the circle, and I'll show you some other designs. I've got, I think, 2 more to go on this one. Okay, last one. Our last little stitch out for this circle. This one then ends up looking like a little double. It automatically does a lock stitch, so I'm then going to cut off, trim my threads, and I'll show you. So this is this one here. So that is a letter K. So you can see how it distorts. So if you imagine the stitch here, it sort of stitches up to do the bit, and then it comes out to make the shape of the K, the little sort of peak. And then I've gone around twice. So you get this beautiful sort of like double flower effect. Here are a few others to show you some of the designs that we've stitched out. So here is a triple zigzag. That makes a nice sort of large peak. And then I've done a smaller one inside. This is a little blanket stitch, this one here. This one, better write it down because I can't remember. So let's pick another stitch. So let's go for a really fancy one. I'm going to pick, on this machine, I'm going to stitch 64. We'll see what that looks like. We might actually adjust this. So I'm loosening off my screw at the back, and I'm going to push it over to the minus. So it's on the smallest circle here for this one. We'll go right in here. So this particular stitch looks a bit like a fan. I'll show you after it's finished. We can have a look at the original stitch and then what it's stitching out like. So when you go to the smaller size, they look like little rosettes. The project that is available for the flower stitcher is decorating a sort of chiffony sort of caftan, and you're decorating the sort of collar part of it, but you can utilize these stitches on any sort of item that you have. So I'm just going to keep going and do another one. I'm going to make this into like a medium size, but I'm going to keep the same stitch, and then I'll do a large one, and then I can show you next to the original stitch what they look like. So if you've got a flower stitcher, what you'd like to do would be, I would write down what stitch number it is on your machine, and then you could stitch it in small, medium and large and make like a little sampler book up for yourself. Up here so we can get through. I'm going to stop at the beginning. We're going to lock off. let's change this to large. So pull my thread out and let's stitch. This is a small, medium and large of the same stitch. And then I'll show it up with the original stitch up on the stitch chart for this machine. Just cut my little thread.
There you go.
Hello, sorry about that. We're just having a few technical difficulties today. So here we have, I'm hoping that you saw me, I stitched the same stitch. I'm just going to put it up here next to my, oh, I might have zoomed in a little bit too much. Let's go this way. So here we have, I've done on this particular machine, stitch 64, which is like a little fan, this stitch here. And then you can see here the small, the medium and the large. So that's that one stitch, and I can get 3 different sort of flower designs that you can stitch out with the flower stitcher. So you can really see that you can use this foot to do some really decorative work. I'll show you on my other little sample. Oops, where is my camera gone? That's probably better. So on here, let's see if I can hold it right. So you can see here, this one was a little serpentine stitch, and that's made a really cute little 5-pointed flower. We have here triple zigzag, and then the little orange one in the middle is like a step stitch. It does like a little sort of square step design. This one here is your serpentine stitch. So the same stitches up here, but this is the small and this one is the large. We've got, oh, and here, these two are the same, if I can hold it in the right spot. So this particular one here is that step stitch, and here it is in the large. So you can sort of see how it is forming that stitch going around. And this here, you can put multiple stitches together. Where are they? So I've got lots of, so it really is a good stitch to play with. This is the largest, this is about the largest that you can go. We've got probably about 1 inch, just over 1 inch in diameter. That's the largest we can do on the flower stitcher. There you go. Okay, so let's move on to the circle attachment and we'll show you that. So we'll move over to, oh, what, another camera here, this camera. So our circle attachment. So here is here is our circle attachment, and it has a silver plate here that goes into your bobbin case area. So you remove the little door off your machine. So this circle attachment will work with your machines as long as it's a top loading. So you take off the little door for where you would normally put your bobbin. Make sure you put a full bobbin in first. And then there's a little screw attachment here, and you can see, oh, no, we can't quite see on that shot. That screws into your machine. Then you have this section on the side, which if I take this little safety cap on, we've got a spike here. Get into focus, there we go. So there's a little spike there and a safety cap. I'll just put that back on. And you have a little clip here. This little clip you have to loosen off, and that allows you then to slide the sizing, and there is markings, if I can get this without...
No, we can see them. That's good.
Blinding everyone. We do have markings on here, inches and centimetres. So you can then set this, if you want it to be particular measurement, that you can set that, and then it's just a matter of clipping that little latch back up again, and this is now solid and won't move. Again, like all of the Janome feet, you do get an instruction card in the blister packs. You do get an instruction card, and it shows you how to attach it and how to use this foot. Okay, so I don't need that. So we are now over here. Okay. So you can see here I have attached my circle attachment, and that's my little screw. There is a hole on the plate of your machine to screw that into, and the little white silver sort of tab is covering where my bobbin is. So this is why you do want to start with a full bobbin. Then I have the bar coming out here, and there is the little center point with the little safety cap. So I'm going to take off my safety cap, and I'm going to slide my work in here, and I'm going to push down, and you can see the little pin has come up through my work, and then I can put my little safety cap back on. So the circle attachment will work with most feet on your machine. Today I have just a standard satin stitch foot, which is the F foot, but it does work with multiple different feet. You can check with your dealer for particular feet if it's going to work with your machine. We can also use pretty much any stitch we want with this. We're going to pick a nice decorative stitch. Let's have a look.
Which machine is showing on?
I'm showing on the 9450 now. So this is a 9mm machine. Let's go this one. So I'm doing a little leaf and floral design. So with the circle attachment, as I said, you can unclip this little clip, and then I can move it. So I can now adjust this left and right to the size that I want. I want to make sure I don't catch these stitches. So I'm going to go around here and I'll set my size there. Start stitching back here. So this particular machine has got auto foot lift. So you can see as I start to sew, it automatically drops my foot down. Now with these decorative stitches that do go forward and back, you just need to let the machine do the work for you. So I'm not holding on to my fabric. I am just guiding it and making sure that this little tiny wedge about 1 inch in front of my machine, in a little wedge back to this point here, is flat. And you can sort of see you allow the fabric to move forward and back, because now we are using the feed dogs of our machine. You just want to sort of keep sort of gently caressing the fabric in front of the foot. So you want it to be reasonably flat between your center point and just in front of your foot. So this is the only part that I'm worrying about, is just here. I'm not actually holding onto my fabric. I'm allowing the machine to do the work for me. All I'm doing is just making sure that part here in front is staying as flat as possible. I'm not worrying about what's happening over here. We are just allowing. I do recommend sewing with the circle attachment on a medium sort of speed as well. And the smaller the circle you do, the sort of slower you have to be and sort of keeping this nice and flat. Whereas the larger the circle, it does, you have a little bit more play in the fabric. So I'm just going to speed up a little tiny bit. So you can see this is forming now a perfect circle around this center point. So the reason we go at a medium speed when decorative stitches, it is allowing the machine to create those stitches and getting them to form perfect. Sometimes if you go too fast, you're not allowing the machine to go forward and back properly, especially with a circle attachment. It's different to working just straight on fabric. And you can see again, I'm just easing the fabric around. I'm not actually holding on to it. I'm not pushing or pulling the fabric, because if I hold on to this too much, I will distort those stitches. This diameter, I'm looking, sorry, radius, I'm at about maybe 2.5 inches. Really at the end here. So this again, at the moment I am using my foot control, but if you prefer, you can unplug your foot control and you can use your start stop button. Okay, I finished here. I'm right on the edge, so I'm just going to cut my threads because I am on the edge. If I want to now do a smaller circle inside here, I don't actually have to take the work off the machine. I can just lift it up, unclip my little latch. We can move in and I can clip my little latch up again. And if I just go for a simple little stitch, I might just do a simple little zigzag sort of stitch. And you will see here too, you can see how there's, my foot is in the up position. I'll just show you here. So my foot is up. I don't need to manually put my foot down. This is a machine, the Memorycraft 9450 QCP does have auto foot lift. So I can just start sewing. As I start sewing, you'll see my foot has now gone down and I can allow it to stitch. Because this is a smaller little circle, again, I do have to just caress that fabric at the front. And you can see I'm sort of working from the inside out. If at any time you get like a little bit of a bubble of your fabric, you can stop. And you can stop, and I've got my pivot function on. It's now lifted up my foot and I can rearrange and spread that fabric out so it's nice and flat. And then I can start sewing again. And with the auto foot lift and the pivot, it means anytime I stop, it will raise my foot up for me, allows me to reposition, and I can start sewing again. You can also utilize the circle attachment just to do applique circles. And I will show you that in a minute. Now I'm currently on just a utility stitch of a zigzag. So when I get back to the beginning, I'm now going to hit my lock stitch button. So it's the same bullseye from the other machine that I showed you. And it automatically locks off, cuts my threads, and it has also lifted my foot. So I can now take my little piece of fabric off. I'll just trim my threads here. And I will show you, where is my camera? This camera over here. You can see here that I've done the two circles, one with a decorative sort of floral leaf with a little flower stalk out, and one just with a regular zigzag. So if we want to do applique, I have got a second piece of fabric here, and I'm going to just place it down onto my work where I'd like it to go. I'm going to roughly sort of find the center of my square that I've got here, and I'm going to place it onto the center spike. Put my little safety cap back on. Put everything underneath my foot. So now here, I just need to make sure that when I'm going to do my initial tack down of this circle, that I'm going to catch. So I'm just going to move my little circle in a bit so it's a bit smaller. And you can spin this around to check. Yes, I'm definitely going to catch it everywhere. So I can now, I've got a regular straight stitch on. So the regular straight stitch is just going to, and this is the same, is I've just got the 2 layers there together. I'm letting the machine do the work. I'm just making sure that little wedge in the front. Every now and then you might want to just check that that little safety catches on. If I need to, I can stop, lift my foot and readjust. Once we have gone all the way around, oops, my little safety cap came off. So here we are, we can come back to the beginning. Because this is just a tack down stitch, I'm just going to cut off straight away. I don't need to actually lock this off. If you were doing just a regular straight stitch, you'll need to lock it off. So now I have this on here. You can choose to trim off your excess on the machine because it is a little bit easier while on camera. I'm going to take it off, but I've still got, I don't know if you can see, I've still got my center mark. That's very important to have that center mark. If you want to, you could put a little cross of chalk there so that you know when you're putting it back on to do the decorative stitching that it is in exactly the same spot. I've got some lovely duckbill scissors. So I'm going to trim off my excess. So once you've cut around, let's cut this off a little bit. So I'm just going to, so you would cut that all off all the way around. I'm just going to move over to this other circle that I've already done. It's nicely trimmed, and I'm just going back in. My spike is in exactly the same center spot that I was before. And I just need to reposition this so it is exactly the same diameter. There we go. So now we've tacked down our fabric and we've cut back the excess. So now we're ready to do a decorative stitch on the edge so that it's sort of seals it in. It's the same as any sort of applique. We're going to just do a regular sort of satin stitch, but I think I'll do one which is sort of like a bit of a bobbly sort of one. And that'll look okay. So now I can just start sewing. This is just going to sew the satin stitch over the edge of my circle to applique it down. It will secure all my raw edges. Depending on your machine and what stitches you have, you can program stitches, you could do fancy stitching around. Now the other thing with decorative stitching, so I don't sort of just sit here and stitch away and we can talk about something else. I would like to stop this, but I would like to stop at the end of the design. And because it's a decorative stitch, if I hit my lock stitch button, it will sew right to the end of one of these designs. It will lock off and finish for me. And that way I could come back to this. So I've done here, where is my camera? So you can see here, I've sort of done this sort of wormy sort of pattern. It's got a little point at either end, and I've stopped exactly at the end of one of the little worms. So it means that when I want to come back and finish off the rest of this circle, I can go back to, when I start sewing, it'll start at the beginning of the stitch, and I'll just put my needle down in that position and it will finish stitching that off. I'll show you here on our other little sample. So on, we can get in focus here. So on this particular one here, I have done this sort of zigzaggy cross stitch with a little sort of star sort of burst pattern, and I've done that over the edge. Whereas this one here, I actually did 2 different stitches. I've done this large sort of arc bridge sort of shape, like it goes, it's like a semicircle, I suppose, and then it stitches back and then goes round. And I've done that right on the edge of the stitches of the circle. Then I've come back in and done this small little circled loop sort of stitch and stitched around. And then you can see I've just followed exactly the same process, but I've done a smaller circle inside here, and then I've cut out the inside part of the red. So the red is what's appliqued on top of the green background. So it's just highlighting that sort of shape that I was going for on this one, where it's got the large circle and then the offset inside. And that will show you the difference that I've done that on all these little ones. I've done a little offset sort of pattern on them. You can stitch with a variety of different stitches. This is a little zigzag sort of blanket stitch. We've got a little curly stitch. Where's this one? There we are with this little triple curly stitch. And oh, this is the fan stitch that we used earlier. So this is the fan stitch, if we can get into focus. So that's that little fan stitch that we did, that we made these. Oops. So there's the little fan stitch on the circle attachment going around. And then that's that same stitch that I used to create these 3 circles on the flower stitcher. So you can see they do complement each other in use, but the flower stitcher is only available for the low shank machines, whereas the circle attachment is available for all top loading machines. So I'll just show you again. We have here our flower stitcher. Where's my camera? So the flower stitcher is what I used on the DM7200 machine. And that creates your small little designs. And then your circle attachment, which is the larger bar here. And that works for all your top loading machines. Now, next month, we will be meeting again on the 18th. Next month, we will be meeting again on the 18th of March. So it'll be really good to see you again for Janome Club. Sorry for the few little technical hiccups today. If they've got any questions about what we've discussed today, you can go and visit your dealer that would have sent you your invitation for today, or you can visit janome.com.au for a full list of all those dealers. And under inspiration, you will find multiple projects to do with some of these accessories and other accessories and projects that we've made in the past. So thank you very much for watching us today and joining us for Janome Club, brought to you by Janome Australia. Thank you.